and ever and ever. See now.
So wait a minute, you ain't joined the channel yet so that you can access special perks over here with the Plainest Jane?
Rolex on your wrist, a plain Jane.
Ooh, watch this. Hey, I'm the Plainest Jane. I'm a cultural commentator and informant, and I provide sticky coverage on trending stories, Black news, Black culture, and everyday topics with a sticky, abstract perspective.
See now, seen ever and ever and ever. See now.
Yes, indeed. You know, things are sticky in Hollywood and in real life. And today we're honing in on Sabrina Peterson and her voodoo allegations. All right. So there are some victims of hers that believe T.I. and Tiny's sexual misconduct allegations in our work case is a whole fraudulent smear campaign. There's just a lot of stuff surrounding the story of Sabrina and the T.I. and Tiny saga. So shout out to everybody in the live chat. I hope y'all are feeling all right. And hopefully you've had some time to tackle your invisible problems. So before I get into breaking down today's topics and viral events, be sure to subscribe and thumbs up or down. Either way, I appreciate it. But be sure to think critically and independently, regardless of what you hear from me or anybody else. Now, we do have a special guest here with us today. Shout out to Bunny from Down the Rabbit News. I'm sorry, Rabbit. From Down the Rabbit Hole News. And, you know, for legal purposes, all things stated in this video are alleged in accordance to reports, and there is a full copyright disclaimer in full effect. Tasha K came out with this interview, again, with these two victims of Sabrina, and they give their account of Sabrina's unhinged behavior, some of her assault allegations, and so on and so forth. So we're going to get into this. It was something that was exclusive on Patreon. And so here's a look at the two different victims. And so just to give you a little bit of a rundown, so Tasha basically covers the fact that there were fake receipts that T.I. stumbled upon. Allegedly, they were fake receipts. And you may have seen this in Surviving T.I. and Tiny Part 1 and Part 2 here on my channel. I really feel like the aim of this interview was to completely discredit Sabrina Peterson. That's just my personal opinion, to shine a light again on her unhinged past and present behavior, and also to kind of highlight how clingy and manipulative she is, allegedly, according to these people who have had relations with her, named Willie and Megan Sparks. So Rabbit, let's go ahead and get into it. Basically, we get into Willie, who was the very first person that we saw. It was about like an hour long on Patreon. It did start on time. And basically what Willie said was that they met Sabrina about 15 years ago, and that they met Shekinah. Shekinah was an assistant at a salon that Willie used to work at as well. He worked at a shop that Sabrina owned, and essentially, Willie looked really terrified. Willie looked very scared the whole time, in my opinion. Sounded very emotional, sounded like Willie was on the brink of a breakdown just the entire time. I was very concerned. And the story that Willie was telling as far as the gun allegation, I just had to get straight to that, because it really took me aback. And I wrote down the quote that Willie gave here as Tasha interviewed. And what this quote was, although both of these, you know, people who were talking about Sabrina Peterson, they were both saying that she's a liar, she's full of drama, they feel like it's a big show. But they did say that the gun situation, they believe was real, because Sabrina called right away when it happened. And so what she did say about it was that Sabrina remained friends with Tiny after this happened. And the kicker that really got me when they got into the whole gun allegation was Willie stated, and I quote, "I don't think that T.I. was wrong for, you know, he couldn't put his hands on Sabrina at the time. And in that, or in any situation, if something is going on between us, if we can't stop it, can't do anything physical, the only thing we can do is pull out a gun. both of us are going to pay attention to the gun. And I know how Sabrina can get to be unstoppable. That really caught me by surprise. Although, don't get me wrong, they were really painting Sabrina out to be just a really violent, aggressive. We get into this, the second woman here who stated that Sabrina cut her face up with a blade. And she thought that they were just going to be regular fist fighting. And Sabrina had a blade in her, allegedly, in her hand and sliced her all up, and she was just gushing. It was a mess, but we'll get into those details a little bit later. But the whole situation with T.I. and this alleged gun situation was something that Willie was able to vouch for. So that I found to be really interesting, and did say it was 13 years ago. She didn't understand why she still stayed around in the vicinity of T.I. and Tiny after the whole situation, why she allowed her children to consider Tip to be an uncle figure. But nonetheless, they were saying that it was very much something that, they believed happened. Another thing that I found to be really interesting was Tiny and Sabrina, she was stating, had townhomes right next to one another at around about that time, which is, probably why he was in such a close vicinity. Let's see, make sure I'm here, not the right one.
Can you hear me okay, Jane?
Yep, I can
Awesome.
hear you.
I'm back.
Okay, cool. So yeah, a lot of this stuff just it really took me by surprise as far as how violent Sabrina can be. But we get into how Sabrina was allegedly fighting in Mace Church. Mace, breathe, stretch, shake, let it go. Reverend Mace. According to what Willie was saying, she was fighting up in the middle of prayer, allegedly.
Yep.
That was something that definitely made me clutch my 3 chains for sure. What do you think about that, Rabbit?
Willie really struck me as someone that was very much close to Sabrina at some time or at some point. I'd like to know a little bit more about the fallout, right, in general. And I also like to learn a little bit more about just what that was like for them to work together. Like, it sounds like they were very close, but just in general, like, I mean, I'm curious how close, right? Like, was he a confidant? Was he just someone that she just called upon all the time? Was he the only contact that she had? Because he's making it sound like he had to be with her all the time. Like, especially when he made the statement about moving to, or I would consider moving, if you're staying at a hotel for a month.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little concerning to me. But then also, like, a lack of memory. It seemed like sometimes he answered the question and he would go in circles. Mm-hmm. He had to, check himself a little bit, if that makes sense.
I'll be honest. I'm not sure what Willie's pronouns are. So I'm trying to be careful myself, and I'm just trying to say Willie because I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
But I got the gist that Sabrina was clingy because, Willie was stating that, Willie wanted their private time. They wanted some alone time. They wanted some me time. And Sabrina was more so just always there, would just like pop up. It sounds like she was a very codependent, and this is just my interpretation of it. Again, think critically and independently. She's a very codependent person. She always kind of needs someone around her. But what I gather from the both of their testimonies is that she has some control, some need for control, which I think will easily lend a hand to what we'll get into, which is the allegations of voodoo and witchcraft that they both alleged that she engages in. So
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
It's like when things aren't going her way, she goes on that.
I appreciate your commentary of the pronouns, because I think that even overall, there's certain aspects of things that need to kind of be addressed, how things need to be identified. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I don't want to be disrespectful. I didn't really hear any clarification around it as I watched it, and I kind of watched it a time and a half, and took notes and did a little bit of pausing. But I just, I'm cognizant, and just ignorant to what the specifics are. Absolutely. When it comes to Willie in particular. So I'm open to that. And if I make any mistakes, please forgive me, because I'm just not sure. And you can't do nothing but keep it 100.
Exactly.
So I think Rabbit, what we were kind of speaking about a little bit before we came on, was if there was one or two alleged gun allegations surrounding Clifford Harris, what are your thoughts and your timeline based on our research? We did part 2 and read through, yes, those allegations. What are your thoughts on that?
And you're right, Jane. So we've been looking at the story a little bit in different angles, and between Tyrone Blackburn's letter, where in one of the witnesses, it gives credit to Sabrina's statement about a victim being underage, having a gun pointed at him. And what we had shared, at least for me, is I'm trying to figure out, is there more than one incident that occurred with the gun? Because in the defamation case, one of the complaints is that Sabrina had a gun pointed to her, and that Hannah Kang was named in that factual statement that Sabrina attorneys are calling factual, right? So we really don't know. There's some confusion, for me at least, and we need to really look at the overall, how many guns, when it happened. Is Hannah Kang someone that can be called in to testify on that? I'm curious to know about that too. So who knows?
Yeah, this is definitely something to debunk, Sabrina, for sure. And a lot of people have been questioning, her motives, her consistency. And I would love to know what you all think in the comments. We all, have our own opinions, think critically and independently. But one thing that I found to be pretty interesting was that Sabrina, from Willie's testimony, was that the dynamic between Sabrina and T.I. was allegedly always reminiscent of a sibling type of a dynamic. It was never something that seemed to be, outwardly sexual, although, allegedly, according to Willie's testimony, Sabrina mentioned being involved with Tiny and T.I. sexually, but wouldn't go into detail. So I found that to be pretty interesting.
I agree. That's why I wanted to know the closeness, right? Like, mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking out loud, right? Your girlfriend, your best friend, your guy friend, who you reveal things to, what did that look like? And is Willie not trying to give too much information just to make sure, that he also protects Sabrina regardless of how that relationship ended?
Right. When Willie ended up stating that sometimes Sabrina would call Willie because they did hair together, they had mutual friends and or clients, within the hair business, because they used to work at mutual salons, and that Sabrina would allegedly call and recruit women and, different clients through her. I thought that it was interesting that Willie would state something like that, because for me, it sounds somewhat incriminating.
Yes, that's what I picked up on that. To me, it was like, we always have to look at why people say the things that they say, right? Like, for me, it sounded like, especially when Willie said something to the effect of um, doing someone's hair and getting their phone numbers afterwards, right? Like that kind of left me a little bit in thought, right? But I also, and I know I don't want to get ahead of ourselves or anything, it does kind of make me question a little bit of her integrity, her willingness to go ahead and do it, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's the voodoo stuff, the witchcraft, whichever one, if both, if one, if the other, if we're going to differentiate that a little bit later on in the show. That really definitely caught me by surprise. It caught me by surprise. It came out of left field for me, but upon further research, we found that the allegations of Sabrina being affiliated with voodoo and or witchcraft date back. They're not new allegations, and people have been accusing her of that for a while. So we're going to get into a little bit of Sabrina Peterson's history. We're going to get into the existence of voodoo within Sabrina's past and history, the existence of voodoo within the entertainment or the music industry in particular. And we're also going to get into the other alleged victim of Sabrina Peterson, whose name is Megan Sparks. And so all of this stuff is coming up. We're going to go on a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back.
So let's see if you're really about it. If you've been serious about what you've been saying about wanting to support more Black-owned businesses, here's your chance. I found a spot for us to grab our hats, hoodies, affordable electronics, phone accessories, and gadgets from. It's over on edwerso.com. That's EDWERSOW.com. Grab something for your hubby, your wife. Hey, I ain't encouraging that side chick behavior, but it's just in time for the holidays. So head on over there and grab your AirPod cases, hoodies, and affordable electronics. That's edwerso.com, EDWERSOW.com. And I'll see you over there. It's time to face it, boo. Your product needs more exposure. If you want to see your ad here on my channel, be sure to shoot an email over to yt.theplainestjane@gmail.com and let's chat. But if you're new in my neighborhood here on YouTube, hey, I'm the Plainest Jane, and I provide coverage and commentary on trending stories, viral events, and Black culture. I definitely appreciate you stopping through and hitting that subscribe button if you like more of my particular brand of syrup.
All right, and we are back, and we're getting into more. We're getting deeper into Tasha K and this exclusive that she released on her Patreon, and it is about Sabrina's Witchcraft, as you can see, versus T.I. and Tiny Harris. So we're getting into this review. I'm pretty sure she's going to release this on YouTube sometime next week, or you know how she does, but we're just giving you this review, this exclusive while it's fresh. It literally just went off. So thank you for hitting thumbs up, and thank you for sharing the stream and just kicking it over here with the Plainest Jane and the Rabbit from Down the Rabbit Hole News. We have been following the surviving T.I. and Tiny situation very closely in different ways. And in the spirit of collaboration, it's been super duper awesome. So let's get straight into the obvious. Let's get into the voodoo. So we have some history on Sabrina Peterson and the allegations, again, of her being involved with voodoo. They're not new. The allegations of her being a little violent, maybe a little bit unhinged, aren't new. Again, this saga continues with the mountain of allegations of sexual misconduct between T.I. and Tiny and Sabrina. Peterson gathered a huge chunk of this testimony, which was mainly text messages and some interviews. And this interview was conducted by Tasha K. So let's get right into it. In the meantime, let's get into this clip because gunplay, I'm not sure if any of you have heard of gunplay, but the idea of just witchcraft and voodoo being something within the entertainment industry, specifically the Black entertainment industry, it's not something that's new. It is something that when it's talked about, it's on the hush hush, or a lot of people don't like to talk about it. I want you to get into this clip. This was taken from Nori or Nori from the Drink Champs show / podcast. Take a listen to this really quickly.
Coming up, me and my niggas, the old heads I used to be grabbing a little work from, whatever, we'll be riding around the neighborhood, you know what I'm saying, a few times and weighing up and bagging, whatever, while we riding and shit. And they always used to have a little Bible on the dash or a big Bible on the dashboard. Right. All the OGs, they used to have a Bible on the dashboard. Right. So I say, I'm going through this life right now. I'm about to go through some hellified yit. I got this case I'm going through, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what to do for real. What can I do? The nigga called 9 on the nigga. What you want me to do? What can I do? And I say, look, what's up with this Santeria thing, man?
We ain't gonna get into all that.
No. That's all niggas.
Hold on, time out.
Yo, pull their fucking skirts down.
Hold on. We're gonna come back to that.
Now, this is where things get a little weird because they start hearing him talking about voodoo and they start ignoring him and trying to change the subject.
Hey, but you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna just tell you some shit, you know what I'm saying?
Not like the people that peed
the
on
spiritual world is real. I cut fucking chickens and goats, nigga, and that's how I beat the case. If you really want to know.
Say it again.
I cut chickens and goats if you really want to know.
Santeria, make some noise for being voodoo. Voodoo.
I just went to
Capone is Haitian. He just don't want to claim it. I don't know why.
He knows. He's
Haitian. I don't know why he don't want to claim it. I don't know why he don't want to claim it. All that shit.
Yo, all that shit. Get my mom, Sonny.
Y'all, he literally said he beat a case by dibbling and dabbling into voodoo. Okay, so it's not something that's new. Other people have spoken about this in different ways, and more so like within the music, not so outside the music. But yeah, voodoo is something that's definitely prevalent within the entertainment industry. For sure.
Yes, for sure. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm hoping everything's working okay now.
Oh yes, we're much better.
Awesome. So yeah, that was very interesting. I think it's not anything that has been kind of a mystery, right? You know, if somebody's practicing something in the belief that it's going to bring them success, right? And rightfully so, if that's what you do. But I don't think it's anything new, right? That we've heard. We've heard so many allegations of so many other celebrities doing that. So for sure.
It's been a lot of it. And I think it's something that we definitely, don't understand. And I know there's, a lot of allegations surrounding Cardi B and this concept, but it becomes something that's kind of taboo or something that people more so sit and speculate and draw their own conclusions about, because celebrities don't often come forward with what they're doing as it pertains to that, especially because, a little bit later on in the show, we'll get into that. A lot of people rely on that if they're not having a lot of luck musically, in the entertainment, industry. So it's not anything that they want to admit, which makes it a little bit more dark and a little bit more mysterious, I think, for a lot of people. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out, Jane, because I'm also watching the comments too, and I would agree, right? Like, it doesn't always mean that it's dark or magic, right? Respectfully, it's a religion. We need to be respectful of all kinds of religions, right? And not confuse it necessarily for that. It's definitely been taken out of context because people have said that this is what they practice and that's what they do, right? So I definitely don't want anybody to get confused with that. So just to clarify.
Definitely. So, okay, so let's get into a little bit of what the stuff that Willie had to say about Sabrina participating in voodoo. She says that she participated in, Willie said that Sabrina participated in money and love spells, and that a lot of the voodoo that Sabrina was participating in was more so rooted in evil. She would use it to intimidate people, and she placed a lot of fear in a lot of people based off of that, from what Willie was stating. When Willie was asked if Sabrina put a spell on T.I. and Tiny, she gave the quote that Sabrina Peterson stated, "I'm gonna handle it in my own way," when it came to T.I. allegedly pulling the gun on her. And then shortly after, Willie states that T.I. was arrested on the gun charge. Also states that Sabrina Peterson had voodoo dolls. Willie also went forward to state that Willie watched a lot of people be hurt by the way that she would practice voodoo on other people. A lot of people just had a lot of unfortunate situations. And when Willie and Sabrina fell out, Willie never tried to rekindle that situation in any way, shape, or form, didn't go back. And Willie also stated that because Willie watched so many people be hurt by the way that Sabrina Peterson would practice, voodoo, or just, her character, Willie was in constant fear that, they were next. So, okay, there's someone here that says they used to work with Willie. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that.
That's really interesting. So there's just...
I think the other thing, Jane, with Willie is that not only did he work with Sabrina, he worked with Shekinah too, right? So he can really attest to both personalities. And I think that that's an interesting, maybe even take to have, right? Like, it's not just he worked with one. He worked with both of them. He sustained a friendship with both of them as well. And matter of fact, if I remember, in one of Shekinah's lives, she named Willie as having been friends with her, and he kind of being like the in-between person.
Wow. Yeah, it seemed very much so as if Willie played just this large liaison, role in between a lot of whatever was happening. So I found that to be just very much worthy of the Oprah meme here. Very much so. Very much so. So when we go on a little bit more, so Willie states that Sabrina called and asked Willie to cut a piece of a woman's hair off, again, because Willie does hair just like Sabrina is experienced with doing hair. And Sabrina literally asked for a patch, for Willie to cut a patch of a woman's hair out. That that really took me back, because it's just interesting. And then Willie turned around and stated that Willie informed that very same client that that's exactly what Sabrina called and asked for. So that was definitely something. And something that I found to be super duper interesting, and honestly, I can't lie. It does give me Jaguar Wright energy, Rabbit, because Willie stated specifically that there was no raping. I'm sure there wasn't any raping. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that maybe Sabrina Peterson hasn't displayed characteristics, allegedly, of being not the most credible person, but to state that there was never any sexual misconduct that would lend itself to that type of assault, I think is such an outlandish statement, unless you are the camera that lives on their all over their home,
Right. No, it is a outlandish statement, I think. That's assuming that you're with Tiny and T.I. 24/7. That's a big assumption, big statement to make. And I think that I wouldn't boldly say that, right? Because then you would have to know the ins and outs of the situation. And I could be wrong, right?
Mhm.
Maybe there wasn't, but I find it very interesting. And I don't think that the people that are collecting these statements would put themselves on the line, to jeopardize the to hold lies, if that makes sense. If they're looking at this the way they're looking at it, I don't know if I would say everyone's lying.
Mhm. And another thing that got me, and let me know, anyone in the chat, it seems that there's a pretty diverse bit of people in the chat. A lot of people seem to know about voodoo and everything. And please feel free, drop the information about it if you're familiar. But the significance of this one I didn't quite understand, but I definitely took a specific note about it, was that Willie states that Sabrina dropped some black eggs by mistake, which the by mistake kind of like seemed on purpose, dropped some black eggs by mistake in front of the door of someone's restaurant that they were in the process of opening, and that the restaurant never opened due to a series of like unfortunate events behind the scenes, alluding that again, Sabrina's utilizing voodoo in a negative way to negatively affect people. And I'm not sure I don't know personally, so I would love to know what you all think in the live chat, or if you're watching the replay, let me know what the black eggs mean, or is it bad luck? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
so that was definitely something.
for sure. For sure.
Did you have something, Rabbit?
Again, because for me at least, and I know maybe some of the folks on the chat as well, dealing with the factual versus belief, right? How do you differentiate that, right? For me, I always find myself in conflict. Not to say that I don't believe, I definitely believe in a higher power, but the intentionality, and then the eggs are black, right? And then what were the series of events that happened? For me, as wanting to see the bigger picture, so that I can explain it to someone logically, it kind of makes me raise an eyebrow a little bit.
Well, I mean, with all due respect, I gotta be honest. If we're just gonna give like a little critique on the production itself, when we're watching something on Patreon for Tasha K, we typically don't see 2 interviews within 57 minutes.
Yeah.
Within, so it seemed rushed, and I'm not sure if there just wasn't enough time, or they didn't want to get into the details, or if maybe there'll be different parts or a series. But it was just 30 minutes to explain, stuff from 13 and 15 years ago, and the huge triangle that is this, with an alleged 38 victims, according to the paper trail thus far.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that we have to kind of keep in mind as well is just that when you were talking about the hair piece, and for me, right, like hair is a huge thing, are we supposed to build an opinion about Sabrina based on what's being said on these interviews, 45 minutes? And that's rough, right? Because I don't know Sabrina personally. I can't say that everyone's telling the truth or lie or whatever. So if this is an attempt to discredit, I don't know if I would take 45 minutes, right, of an interview to say that this is enough for me. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So someone's in the chat, Prince Carter, says, I personally know Sabrina. The first day I met Sabrina, my friend who used to do her hair in the salon on Peter Street told me to never cross Sabrina because she's dangerous. And this was 7 years ago. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But, the bottom line that Willie wanted to leave us with, and also that Megan Sparks wanted to leave us with, was that Sabrina is a liar. Willie specifically stated that Sabrina likes to attack people, and Sabrina is always allegedly looking to attack new people. So that was the bottom line of what Willie had to say. Rabbit, did you notice any other arguments or perspectives on Willie's testimony?
For sure. And again, I think one thing that really kind of maybe not bothered me, but kind of made me question Willie a little bit was his memory. There were certain things he could remember very well, and there were certain things where he had to kind of circle back and figure out. I mean, even the gun situation, he remembers that he was called the day that it happened. He remembered panicking. He said that it was entry that they were at, that there was townhouses that used to live next to each other, the tiny. And he remembers there being some type of a Tiny wasn't around during the gun situation because Tiny's daughter's birthday was coming up and it was like winter time. So there were certain details where I was like, nuggets. I could totally do something with this information. But then there were certain things where he was like, it was 10 years ago, 13 years ago. I don't remember. But then there was the ATL. So I don't know. I have a hard time kind of really knowing where I land with Willie, to be quite honest. And I want to know what happened, why they aren't friends anymore. I felt like that was the biggest thing for me. I don't feel like I got a really good sense of why it ended the way it did. And if she's really into, practicing anything, would you be talking on a live or on an interview with Tasha while, she's facing court, if that makes sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
I got a question mark.
Yeah. A few questions ran across my head, but when we hear the level of how extreme Megan Sparks' testimony got,
yes,
and based on the similarities that they drew between Sabrina, it definitely seemed as though they were describing the same person.
Yes.
I think whatever window of opportunity Willie may have came up on, Willie was like, I'm out of here, because, Willie did express, I've seen a lot of people, at her demise due to her utilization of voodoo. And so, a lot of time when you're in a dangerous situation, I'm not making excuses. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing. Like, if someone knows voodoo, even if you, or knows how to affect you negatively without the touch or without you being present, running away ain't gonna do anything,
Right.
So I don't know, maybe they saw a window of opportunity, or maybe it would have been more beneficial for Willie to let us know exactly what situation was it, how did it go?
Absolutely. And I do want to point out in a comment that someone says that the interviews were lackluster. I would have to agree with that a little bit, because I feel like you're absolutely right, Jane. They were clustered very together. And for me, if I'm trying to find someone else's MO or a big picture, I want to go as deep as I can, if that makes sense. So I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, it definitely. I would have enjoyed, especially because, the title of it was, directly had witchcraft. It was T.I. and Tiny versus Sabrina Peterson's Witchcraft. And it seemed like when the allegations of kind of like witchcraft and stuff came up, it was just kind of like, ooh, well, that's crazy. Well, that's crazy. Instead of exactly what was it, or what was the extent, or what was this? It seemed like it just grazed the surface and left us hungry for more. And my stomach is still growling, really, for more answers.
No, I agree. We want steak.
all day.
All day.
So let's get into Megan Sparks and a little bit of what her testimony was.
Hey, thanks for letting me keep you connected and in the know with what's happening in the Black world. Don't forget to smash on that like button for support and for more Black news.
Okay, so this is Megan Sparks here, and Megan states that she met Sabrina in 2010 in her salon, and stated that Sabrina is just really dramatic and always puts on a show, allegedly, and that's essentially what she chalked her present day antics and behaviors up to, is her just being a drama queen, because it was her pattern. And essentially, she stated that 8 years ago, Sabrina assaulted her and cut her in the face. I kind of scratched on that a little bit earlier in the video. And now the real kicker here for me was Megan states that she was 20 at the time, and Sabrina was 34. So this is a whole grown woman and a girl that's not even old enough to drink alcohol, who is being cut in the face for what sounded like really a very frivolous reason. Megan had her car to go get her some food, and Sabrina Peterson was allegedly with like a young child that she had just like had a baby, and she had her car. So Megan is driving Sabrina's car. Sabrina lent her car to Megan so that Megan could go get her some food. And apparently so Megan didn't bring the car back fast enough or on time enough for Sabrina Peterson. And Sabrina went off and proposed that they meet up and fight, and she cut her in her face, and her face was leaking. Another kicker to this story is when they were getting into it, and the blade, the knife, whatever was in her hand, and Sabrina realized she made Megan's face bleed. She said, "Oh my God, you're bleeding." Turned around, allegedly went in the house, grabbed her baby, came out. Now this is what Megan is saying. Sabrina came out of the house, used her baby as a shield in front of her, and then tossed her baby into the car and sped off really, really quickly. Stated it was a really big, deep cut, but that story just sounded crazy. It just was like, if they're not trying to make Sabrina look crazy, I don't know who or what is. They're really, whether this is true or not, comment in the chat. Let me know. Do you believe Sabrina? Do you believe that T.I. and Tiny are guilty? Rabbit, what are your thoughts?
This one was so Megan Sparkle is a victim, right? Sabrina did go to jail, was incarcerated because of this incident, right? So we know that happened back in 2013. You know, Megan was 20 and Sabrina was 34. And one thing that really struck me that I'm still trying to figure out is I'm trying to maybe in my mind I'm comparing how Tasha K had interviewed Sam Odom when he talked about the one thing he remembered that was very well about that relationship. I didn't hear her ask anything to Megan about this relationship, although, you know, Megan was hurt. She became a victim of Sabrina. I would have wanted to have known a little bit of like what made this 20-year-old fall for Sabrina at that time. You know, were they like, what did that relationship look like? I feel like I didn't really get a good picture. Or was it even a relationship? Because it was a little bit unclear to me.
Wasn't she a babysitter?
She was a babysitter, but I think, and let me look back on my notes a little bit. It was pretty, they met at the shop. It sounded like they were dealing with each other, and I was a little bit unclear whether there was more to that situation, if that makes sense.
If so, that's pretty predatory because, again, that age difference, the girl was 20 and Sabrina was 34 at the time.
Yeah. And I had seen on the blogs, and this was back in, again, dating, right? Now, you know, thank God for the internet, you can look for things, but like there were blog postings about her putting her girlfriend or her significant other at the hospital in ICU. So I think that the relationship has always been kind of questionable. Like, were they together? Were they not together? And so I'm going to default to whatever Megan identifies, right? Because she's the victim. She should be able to call what the situation was. But yeah, I really felt for Megan. I mean, and I still do.
Yeah.
Right? You have Sabrina calling you for what?
That was the
Allegedly.
crazy part. That was the crazy part, because after all this, again, the way that, Megan here describes the cut, she says she was down to the white meat. She's looking at herself, because it was like more than her face, that was cut. And again, I just had this article up here for you of when it happened. Feel free, pause the screen, read it. But she basically says that she was down to the white meat. And when she looked down at herself, between being cut on her hand and everywhere else, it was a very gruesome, just disgusting. And she still has nerve damage to this day. Another part that really got me about Megan Sparks' testimony is the fact that she stated that the police were not surprised when they got there. She said the police got there and basically barely even had to ask if Sabrina did this to her, but they already knew Sabrina's name based on the address. So that was definitely something that, again, this is all alleged and according to reports, and there is a full copyright disclaimer in full effect, but it's definitely telling of her character if it's true. Did you have something, Rabbit?
I just, I'm trying to figure this out. If allegedly Sabrina contacted her, right now, offering to do a reconstructive whatever of her leg, for what, and I feel for her, and I can only imagine what she's probably going through right now, seeing Sabrina's name up again. But at the same time, it makes me wonder, kind of like, what is the next chapter moving forward? For
Right.
Megan, for Willie too, and
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, especially coming out having said that, with the type of, pressure that it seems that they may or may not have. I'm confused about a lot, but again, just, presenting how it looked, from my perspective, from the Rabbit's perspective.
Yeah.
One thing that Megan Sparkle also had to say was that Sabrina is just one big show. And for the people who don't know any better, they just so happen to take her serious. Again, just the drama aspect of her. And, now we get into the part about Sabrina contacting, Megan. And again, apparently Sabrina called up Megan and stated that she heard Megan say somewhere that she had some nerve damage.
Yeah.
And she said, I know that it's because of me. And is there any type of a specialist that I can send you to? Because I'll pay for it. Do you have any scars? And if you ever need to vent about it, then you can call me. Now, this is the part that really, this is where attention to detail really falls in.
Yeah.
Because she stated, if you ever need to vent, you can call me. So Tasha goes to clarify and says, if you ever need to vent about anything, like be her friend, you can talk about it. And so Megan clarifies and states, no. She stated, if you ever wanted to talk about the fight that we got into, our altercation that we got into, then you can call me up and we can talk about it. And it's like, what do we need to talk about when you sliced and diced me up and I've got permanent nerve damage?
Yeah.
And what she said was her left leg is messed up, and that, it's been a lot of years since that happened. She said it happened 8 years ago. So she said whatever nerve damage she has, it's permanent, and it's too late to try to address it now.
Right. And I think the other part to that too is like the healing part first, for her, right? Like if this happened 8 years ago, she probably had to testify. She probably had to think about what that looked like and talk to different people. I mean, I can imagine that it's never really gone away. Why would you want to talk to your attacker? Like, what's the, I don't know, what's the win there for her? And I'll tell you, like Megan, as I was looking a little bit more about Megan, she's kept a low profile. She doesn't seem to be like this person that's looking to come to the limelight. She's just addressing what happened to her. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very sad.
Yeah. It really is. And again, that relationship with the attacker, and in addition to Sabrina allegedly staying around after having a gun allegedly pulled on her with T.I. And one thing that Megan stated or shed some light on was the fact that Sabrina would stay around different people or situations based on if they had different connects with different celebrities. And Willie touched on something like that as well in reference to Sabrina being not so much as an opportunist, but very bold in letting you know what she was capable of, what types of strings she was able to pull, how she was able to just do different things, get a grasp on people, make friends out of your enemies. When you fall out with someone, now all of a sudden, just a lot of the different ironic things that would happen under the watch of alleged voodoo / witchcraft, which again has been something that's been following Sabrina for, as far as I could see back, was 2013. People started.
For sure. And then Jane, let me just address. So I have a comment here. Ask the rabbit why she's defending evildoers practicing witchcraft and voodoo. I don't think I am. I hope this person didn't miss the whole live. I am not. I just want to make sure we differentiate. That's what I said. Those are two different things. So
yeah, for sure.
But thank you.
So yeah, Sabrina definitely. She has a past. This mugshot is from 2013 on February the 5th, which I think this was probably the mugshot from when she assaulted Megan Sparks, I believe.
Yeah. I believe that's what I was able to pull at that time. Now, mind you, I don't know if there's any other ones. I believe there are, but respectfully, don't quote me on that because I would have to go back and check on my homework.
Absolutely. So there's just a lot of stuff. I had no clue. Let me tell you, I had no clue that Sabrina had anything to do with Big Meech that, was affiliated with Rick Ross. So I think Sabrina's whole story, to get all perspective, it's not even both sides. You got Sabrina's side, any victim's side, and then the truth. It's legitimately, pun intended, it's a rabbit hole to fall into to understand, is she credible? Did she gather all these people up together and make something that perhaps wasn't true? We've got the allegations about Sabrina Peterson, and some of these stories and receipts are fake. And that's something that T.I. shed light on. So it's interesting deciding who you'll believe or how much is true of different people's testimony. I think that it would be really smart if T.I. would be quiet, because I think the more he talks, the worse it gets. I mean, I think Shekinah has kind of like zipped it for the moment, but T.I. he makes it worse.
I would agree. And I think that, I feel for the people that want to defend themselves, and it's probably better that you don't in that moment, right? You have to be quiet, and you have so much to say if anybody's been in that situation. However, I will say that this is probably the time to hire the people that you need to hire to help you through that. And the other thing that I foresee, this is going to be very expensive. This is going to be time consuming, expensive. It's unfortunate, and we'll see what comes up as we move forward, I guess.
Hey, I'm not trying to be negative, but I don't see T.I. and them getting over this. It's done a lot. It's already affected the show. It's affected movies, and this mountain is just so high. And some of the things that he has to say sound incriminating. They sound cocky, and I think he's already reached his peak. And Wakanda, as he would know it, you see Keisha Lance Bottoms ain't saying nothing about it because she doesn't want to be associated with it. She's trying to go for another term. And she definitely used to link or attach herself some way, even if it was just in conversation, whatever, with T.I. But it's just it's not a good look at all. Rabbit, do you see it? Even if they have the best lawyers, the best defense team, whatever, do you think that there is any future for the Harrises?
I didn't. Thinking back when T.I. was facing the big charges, right? Like, yeah, I was worried, and he did what he, hired the right people and all that other stuff. He still got into trouble and whatnot. Moving forward, what I see is that this is an uphill battle. And I think the difference now is now you have timing. And now we're kind of questioning women's ability to be aggressive sexually, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're questioning so many things. There's so many things happening. There's so many moving parts. I also think that Sabrina Peterson, not to use her past against her, she's probably not the best person to talk to in terms of like a victim to another victim, quote unquote, right? She's got a lot of work to do, and she needs to stop doing lives as well, because it's not helping her. It's not helping her brand. But she does it, and there's no care in the world. So that's just my thought on that.
Do you think, now I see someone in the chat, and I appreciate Kendra for coming through, and everyone for hitting thumbs up. Thank you so much. I see a lot of people saying this about T.I. getting caught up into politics, and that's why a lot of this is happening. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. And Sabrina is also involved in a lot of advocacy in her community. So I think both of them are well involved in the community and trying to, bring their community and bring some awareness. There's a lot of crime happening right now. And so I completely understand that. But I don't know. Right now, I don't think T.I. is even thinking about politics, especially with all this. Yeah.
Well, some people are saying maybe he was trying to buy something behind the scenes. A lot of people say, oh, Bill Cosby was trying to buy NBC. And some people are saying, oh, T.I. must have pissed off the elites, or, whatever that thing is. Do you think he was doing something so monumental behind the scenes that all of a sudden they targeted him and pinned this on him?
I mean, and that's a hard one to even answer, right? Not part of the elite. Yeah, sorry, I'm not in that club. However, I'm in the YouTube club. But it's a hard one, right? And the thing is that we just don't know, other than what's public information, it's very hard to really know what's in the man's conscience, right? But it doesn't help that he also opened the door by the statements that he made. That's my problem with T.I., is that he meant well, but he put his foot in his mouth, big time.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a very cocky person. E Baby says he was doing too much and talking too much, per usual, expeditiously. And just because you have a vast vocabulary doesn't mean that having diarrhea of the mouth and talking about allegations as heavy and as serious as this, you'll dig yourself in a deeper ditch, and you'll end up contradicting yourself, thinking that you're digging yourself out, or you're making your victimhood or your fake victimhood look any better, and you're not. You look stupid sometimes, depending on what the situation is.
Right.
So a lot of this stuff is very and especially, again, be sure it's in the description box, and it'll also be pinned in that very top comment. Check out Surviving T.I. and Tiny Part 1 and Part 2. Part 2, we go through the documentation of the 11 different people that the attorney represents, Tyrone represents, and we go through and we read, and it's really just interesting. We talking about allegations of T.I. sticking his foot in a girl's vagina. We're talking about allegations of just, the R word, underage girls. We're talking about slipping, drugs and narcotics, no consent. There's just a lot of really uncomfortable. I won't even give it all to you. It gets worse. It really does. So be sure to check out part 2 that myself and the Rabbit did here with Down the Rabbit Hole News, because we definitely went deep. So y'all, hit thumbs up. There's 558 of y'all here, and listen, that means so much. I know I got a couple of new members, and I thank y'all for joining the membership and using your special emojis and taking advantage of all the perks here. We're going to go on a quick commercial break. We're going to come back. We're going to give our final thoughts, drop any comments, any questions, any concerns you have that you want us to address, and we will be right back.
It's time to face it, boo. Your product needs more exposure. If you want to see your ad here on my channel, be sure to shoot an email over to yt.theplainestjane@gmail.com and let's chat. But if you're new in my neighborhood here on YouTube, hey, I'm the Plainest Jane, and I provide coverage and commentary on trending stories, viral events, and Black culture. I definitely appreciate you stopping through and hitting that subscribe button if you'd like more of my particular brand of syrup.
All right. So what I really want to know from you all, and we'll get into just our final thoughts, is do you think T.I. and Tiny's sexual misconduct allegations are a part of a smear campaign? As both of these, Megan and Willie, both stated that they believe it's a smear campaign. Megan in particular stated that she believes that Sabrina Peterson is literally all 38 of the victims. There are no other victims, and Sabrina is all 38 of them wrapped up into one. And Megan also was very specific on the record in stating that Sabrina Peterson is allegedly demonic and weird. So I also want to know if you think Sabrina Peterson engages in voodoo. Rabbit, what are your closing thoughts?
Oh, uphill battle for sure. It's going to be, I think, not just for Tiny and T.I., but also for Sabrina, I think, and all the alleged victims. For me, it's very hard for me to have an opinion. I like to see the full picture, and I think that that's important, right? But that's all I can say right now. Is it's going to be an uphill battle. I think that Tasha K did a good job of giving us a picture, although it was very short. I would have loved to have gone a little bit deeper. That's just how we are at the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't have an opinion yet. I think there's more to come. I'm waiting to hear from the different jurisdictions in the states to see what they can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. So someone says she admitted to doing dark magic on live. Wow. And again, from my understanding is that all voodoo and or witchcraft isn't bad, but you can use it, you can weaponize it, you can use it for harm, and of course that's obviously just not good. So Andrea says, and thank you so much, Andrea is one of the channel members over here. I feel it's a smear campaign, but also I believe it's true. And T.I. and Tiny are being exposed to shut them down politically. Okay. It said that so many people are. So yeah, I just, I've seen a lot of comments, especially under the Surviving series part 2, is a lot of people are stating that these young girls know what they're getting into. And one of them actually I heard state that this evening is they know what they're getting into. And I think young girls don't always know what they're getting into. They know that they're getting into something that'll give them an adrenaline rush that may not necessarily be right. But I don't think that blaming, and see, that's the thing. Some people may want to call them victims. Some people may want to call them plaintiffs. Some people may want to call them survivors. These are all allegations. T.I. and Tiny have not been convicted in the court of law. But it's just, child, I don't think that we should be blaming children, because again, this takes me back to the R. Kelly situation, and children don't always know, and it's wrong to prey on someone whose frontal lobe isn't even fully developed yet.
I think you hit it in the nail, right? Like we have to be able to hear what's going on, right? And so my thought is that someone like Tyrone Blackburn, who is, very much wanting to bring some justice, is bringing attention to these things because he feels like there might be more to look into. And I think that that's something that we have to allow to happen. If there's nothing there, then there's nothing there, and we move forward. But the thing is that, we have to allow things to take the time that they need to take. It's the same thing with Sabrina. You can't really build an opinion about someone's past or behavior. We just don't really know quite yet. Does she move different? Absolutely. She moves very different, but a lot of people do.
Aaliyah TV says, I didn't like that comment from Willie about they know what they're getting into. A celebrity inviting you to a party or to hang out doesn't automatically mean you will partake in extracurricular stuff. Right. And I've heard Wendy Williams even say things similar to that nature, somewhat. But yeah, just because you go with the celebrity and, the pressure from a celebrity isn't the same as the pressure from, a regular person. And again, when we're talking about minors, we can't hold them to standards that some 25-year-old adults wouldn't even be able to live up to. So we have to keep that in mind. And I think when it comes to kids who are at the wrong place at the wrong time, we need to more so be trying to figure out where was the parent or guardian and kind of put a little bit of maybe pressure or thought into that as opposed to blaming the child. I think that's really important.
I agree.
But that's just me. As always, be sure to think critically and independently, regardless of what you hear from me or anybody else. Don't forget to check the description box for Surviving T.I. and Tiny Parts 1 and Part 2 right here on the channel. Don't forget to take a hop over to the Rabbit at Down the Rabbit Hole News channel. There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on. I have 2 or 3 parts to the Surviving T.I. and Tiny series over here. And the Rabbit over on Down the Rabbit Hole News covers it a bit different. So I think the Rabbit is on like part 5, or this may make part 6.
I don't know. That's part 6 at this point. Let me not say that, but we do go deep. We try to explain, to the best of our abilities so that, everybody can make, like you say, an independent opinion. You digest the information the way you want to. We'll try to explain it the best we can.
Absolutely. So you all take a visit. I'll go ahead and I'll place that in the description box. It'll also be in the pinned comment. To my channel members, we'll be doing our members only live right after this. So get ready. Okay. Let me know down below in those comments your thoughts on this story. Do you think T.I. and Tiny's sexual misconduct allegations are part of a smear campaign, or do you think Sabrina Peterson engages in voodoo? Who do you think lying? Do you think Sabrina's lying? Do you think T.I.'s lying? Do you think either one of the victims from this evening are lying? Or do you think all of them are lying at some point and you just don't know? And this Oprah meme sums it all up for you. Let me tell you, Oprah sums it up for me, okay? This whole situation got me feeling like Oprah right here, okay? Just take it. All right. Now, don't forget to check in on yourself and find some peace and do some things to grant yourself release. All right. Hold on to your loved ones and, don't forget to subscribe and thumbs up or down. Either way, I appreciate it. And be sure to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of the celebrity or real life search, because, things are always sticky in Hollywood and even after Trump then left office. Lord, have mercy. Y'all stay beautiful, black, and blessed until the next time. All right.
But that's it. If you want to catch more of my commentary on Black culture or vital and trending information, be sure to subscribe by hitting that little circle in the middle of the screen, or I'll catch you in one of these rectangles to the right in another video. I'll see you there.
Allie the Sag says, sending love from Minneapolis. I don't believe Megan. She The antioxidant goodness in every bottle of Palm Wonderful makes it a potent weapon against free radicals. Your antioxidant superpower committed to protecting you from unforeseen foes. And Palm is super wonderfully delicious. Palm Wonderful, the antioxidant superpower.
He needs more people. That's that Minneapolis energy, sis. Thank you so much for the super chat. We're going to get, deep on the subject. I know you're seeing everything that's going on in downtown with George Floyd. They got them fences up. Child. Whew, that tells me a lot of what I need to know, but we're not going to talk about George Floyd on this video. So thank you so much for the super chat, sis. Let's see here. Let me pull up this video really quick. All right, we look like we got 5,000 people watching. Make sure y'all hit that like button. So let me get this pulled up. This is the video from the people in the UK. Okay, here we go. Oh, where's my screen thing? All right, here we go.
At the other end of the scale, there's British presenter Piers Morgan, who used to hang out with Meghan Markle a little bit, called it a shocking betrayal of the royal family.
This is a 2-hour trash-a-thon of our royal family, of the monarchy, of everything the Queen has worked so hard for, and it's all being done as Prince Philip lies in hospital. Mm-hmm. They trash everybody. They basically make out the entire royal family a bunch of white supremacists by dropping this race bombshell without
that phrase.
They didn't name which one it was. They just throw it out there so it could be any member of the royal family. And Harry says, "I'll never say who it was."
This poor us sort of weepy waily, playing the victim card, playing the racism card. All that did appeal to a lot of people, it seems. What harm might this interview have done?
I think it will do a fair amount of harm, actually, because a lot of the media and the Twitterati and the social media and all those new influential outlets, I think they will be on the side of what Meghan Markle represents. And what Meghan Markle represents is the contemporary culture of narcissism, the obsession with self-reflection, the obsession with the self, the victim industry, as you refer to it, where she now wants to be the queen of that industry, essentially, by presenting herself as having had an incredibly hard life living in all these palaces. I think a lot of people will warm to that idea, even though I think it is grotesque, because it's trendy now to be a victim. It's trendy to be someone who claims to have been hurt, to be someone who displays their wounds in public and advertises their emotions and signals their virtue. That's the kind of contemporary trends, and that's what Meghan Markle represents. And of course...
Okay, so I just played you that, and I want y'all to go ahead and listen to the clip from American TV. It's American TV, but they're pulling out all the British people to come and speak on this situation, all the British anchors and everything else. So let me go ahead and play this part for you guys. Okay, here we go.
In a devastating interview, a visibly pregnant Duchess of Sussex told Oprah Winfrey her royal life in London left her suicidal